If everything is truly fine, why does the silence feel heavier than ever? And why does Taehyung's calm after Jungkook's confession leave ARMY with more questions than answers? Like, comment, and subscribe right now if you feel this tension too, because your voice matters in decoding what the world is pretending not to see. There are moments in the life of an artist when words finally come out, not as rumors, not as whispers passed between fans, but as a confession that lands directly in the public space and refuses to be ignored. Jungkook's recent admission was one of those moments. It arrived without fireworks, without dramatic music, without the kind of staged spectacle that people often expect from global stars. Yet its impact rippled instantly, shaking the emotional core of the fandom. ARMY listened carefully, dissected every sentence, replayed every clip, and waited for the aftermath. And then came the silence. Not the empty kind, but the kind that feels full. The kind that presses against your chest. The kind that makes you ask yourself over and over again, if everything is really okay, then why does everything feel so different? Taehyung's response, or rather, Taehyung's way of being after that confession, became the center of attention almost immediately. He did not rush to clarify. He did not rush to reassure. He did not rush to deny or confirm anything in the way people expected. Instead, he remained composed, gentle, almost serene on the surface. But for a fandom trained by years of reading between the lines, that surface calm felt unfamiliar. This was not the loud reassurance of laughter-filled live broadcasts. This was not the playful chaos ARMY had grown used to. This was something quieter, something more restrained, something that felt deliberate. And that is exactly why it became impossible to ignore. ARMY has always known that silence can speak louder than words, especially when it comes from someone like Taehyung. His personality has never been simple to define. He is expressive, yet private. Emotional, yet guarded. Artistic, yet deeply aware of how much the world watches him. When Jungkook spoke, many expected Taehyung to respond in a way that would immediately restore balance, to offer a gesture that would calm the storm. Instead, what they saw was a man who seemed to be choosing stillness over reaction. And that choice, intentional or not, became a message of its own. If everything between them is fine, ARMY keeps asking, then why does the air feel heavier? Why do interactions feel more measured? Why does the warmth feel different, not gone, but transformed into something less obvious, less accessible? Fans are not inventing these questions out of boredom. They come from years of emotional investment, from watching every glance, every shared smile, every moment of comfort exchanged on stage and off. When patterns shift even slightly, people notice. And when those shifts happen right after a confession that already stirred emotions, the questions multiply. What makes this moment even more intense is the contrast between what is said and what is felt. Jungkook's words suggested honesty, growth, and vulnerability. On paper, they sounded like the kind of confession that clears the air. But emotional realities are rarely that simple. Growth often comes with discomfort. Honesty often opens wounds before it heals them. And vulnerability, while powerful, can change the dynamics of any relationship. Even one as deep and long-standing as the bond between Jungkook and Taehyung. Taehyung's quiet demeanor after that moment does not necessarily signal conflict, but it does signal processing. And processing, especially in public, is never easy. ARMY's reaction has been a mix of concern, empathy, and confusion. Some fans urge others not to overthink, reminding everyone that idols are human, that they are allowed to have complex emotions that do not translate neatly into fan expectations. Others argue that ignoring the emotional shift feels dishonest, that pretending nothing has changed does a disservice to the depth of the connection fans have witnessed for years. Between these perspectives lies a shared truth. Something feels different, and pretending otherwise does not make that feeling disappear. Taehyung's silence, or rather his controlled presence, has been interpreted in countless ways. For some, it feels like maturity, a sign that he is choosing to handle things privately rather than feeding speculation. For others, it feels like distance, a subtle emotional step back that contrasts sharply with the closeness fans are used to seeing. Neither interpretation can be proven. And that uncertainty is exactly what fuels the emotional tension. Humans are uncomfortable with unanswered questions, especially when those questions involve people they care deeply about. The idea that everything is fine is comforting, But comfort does not always align with reality. Fine does not mean unchanged. Fine does not mean untouched. Fine can mean that two people are navigating a new emotional landscape, learning how to exist in a space that feels unfamiliar. Taehyung's behavior suggests awareness. Awareness of the weight of Jungkook's words. Awareness of how every move he makes will be analyzed. Awareness of the fact that sometimes, the most honest response is not an immediate one, that there is also the unspoken pressure of public expectation. Jungkook and Taehyung are not just individuals. They are symbols, representations of connection, friendship, and shared history. Any perceived shift between them feels personal to fans because it disrupts a narrative that has provided comfort and joy for years. Taehyung's restraint might be his way of protecting that narrative, or it might be his way of redefining it. Either way, it challenges ARMY to confront an uncomfortable truth. Relationships evolve, even the ones we hold closest. Emotionally, this moment hits hard because it forces fans to sit with ambiguity. There is no dramatic fallout, no clear explanation, no neat conclusion. There is just a feeling, lingering and unresolved. Taehyung's calm presence becomes a mirror, reflecting the uncertainty back at the audience. It asks fans to consider whether their need for reassurance is fair, whether their interpretations cross the line into projection, and whether loving artists also means allowing them the space to be imperfectly human. What makes this situation even more compelling is the absence of denial. Silence can be a shield, but it can also be an acknowledgement that something meaningful is happening beneath the surface. Taehyung does not look broken. He does not look angry. He looks thoughtful. And thoughtfulness, in this context, carries emotional weight. It suggests that Jungkook's confession mattered, that it landed, that it is being taken seriously. If it did not matter, there would be no need for such careful composure. ARMY's emotional response, ranging from anxiety to quiet support, speaks volumes about the depth of the connection between fans and artists. This is not about gossip. It is about emotional continuity. Fans want to know that the bond they have witnessed has not been erased, even if it has changed. Taehyung's demeanor feels like a pause in a story that has always flowed freely, and pauses are often the most intense moments in any narrative. The fear underlying many reactions is not that something is wrong, but that something precious is shifting out of reach. Change is not inherently negative, but it is unsettling, especially when it happens in a relationship that has symbolized stability for so long. Taehyung's silence amplifies that fear because it offers no immediate comfort. Instead, it asks for patience, something that is difficult to practice in a culture of instant updates and constant visibility. Yet within this tension lies a quieter, more hopeful interpretation. Perhaps Taehyung's response is an act of respect, both for Jungkook and for himself. Perhaps he understands that not every emotional moment needs to be performed for an audience. Perhaps the difference ARMY feels is not distance, but depth, a transition from something youthful and openly expressive into something more mature and internalized. Growth often looks like loss before it looks like gain. As fans continue to watch, to analyze, to feel, one thing becomes clear. This moment has touched something deep within the fandom. It has sparked conversations about boundaries, about emotional ownership, about the difference between support and entitlement. Taehyung's quiet presence after Jungkook's confession is not just a personal reaction. It is a catalyst for reflection, both for the artists involved and for the people who love them. If everything were truly simple, there would be nothing to talk about. But simplicity has never been the defining feature of Jungkook and Taehyung's connection. Their bond has always carried layers, emotions that resist easy explanation. This current silence, heavy and charged, feels like another layer being added, not removed. It challenges ARMY to stay, to listen, and to trust that not all answers arrive immediately.